The Mario franchise is no stranger to spin-offs and different genres of games starring the famous plumber. You've got Mario & Luigi, Paper Mario, Mario Kart, Super Smash Bros., Mario Tennis, Mario Golf, Mario Strikers, heck, even Mario Baseball used to be a thing. More recently, there was even a brand new genre added to Mario's roster, that being the more classic tactical RPG of Mario plus Rabbids. With this recent push into new territory, I'd like to take it one step farther. What would a Metroidvania in the world of Mario look like? There are four main things to think about when it comes to a Mario Metroidvania: characters, gameplay, story, and world. Let's get into it. Obviously, the main playable character would be Mario, although I could see a world where it lets you choose to play as Luigi, Peach, or Toad for the story instead. However, what I don't see is a world where you would have 4-player multiplayer. I could see the art style of this game being 3D models, but I'd really like to see another shot at a pixel style, with similar lighting to games like Octopath Traveler or even the Superstar Saga remake. For a simpler world design, there will be no special abilities for any of the different playable characters, like Mario Wonder. The only major differences would be some unique dialogue and animations for each character. For enemies, there will be average ones like Goombas, Koopas, Spinies, etc. But let's bring back some enemies from other games as well. Why not add Rex or Dino Rhino from Super Mario World? How about the Fliffit or Scutlet from Bowser's Inside Story? Or even Clubbas or Duplighosts from Paper Mario? Even enemies originally from more mainline series that are now relegated entirely to spin-offs, like Shy Guys, Sniffits, Crayzee Dayzees, the list goes on. All of these enemies would fit in the 2D style of the game very well, and would provide lots of enemy variety for the player during the adventure. As for NPCs, these will be in a similar situation to the enemies. You'll have Toads, but think of the spin-off games again. Perhaps Merlin could be found in Toad Town, Beanish explorers out in the wild, Colorado the Koopa uncovering an ancient mine, Nimbus people and star sprites up in the sky, and maybe Toadsworth isn't dead! Alright, sorry for the more rambly part there, but I just wanted to ignite your imagination about all the untapped potential that Nintendo has in this game. I'd really like it if they embraced as much of their cast of characters as possible. It could really bring everything together. With that, let's move on to possibly the most important part of the video: gameplay. The gameplay section is the most complicated section of this video, and that's because this is a whole new genre of Mario that will have a whole new control scheme. So throughout this section, we'll be filling out a Pro controller with all the changes, while discussing new additions to gameplay that aren't part of the controls. Let's start with some groundwork, add on how power-ups work, and finish up with some extra features. Controlling Mario will be a bit of a learning curve in this game. I want this to be an all-new style of Mario platforming, with different ways to parkour around, while also including a more complex fight system for him. We'll start with the absolute basics. Moving is done with L, and jumping is done with B. Jumps can be strung together into double and triple jumps. You can wall jump off most surfaces, unless they're too rough, and pressing ZR in midair will let you do a dive like the 3D games. Mario has a total of 10 HP in this game as well. Running also functions like in the 3D games. Despite being a side-scroller, we still have a full control stick, so there's no need for a run button. Additionally, R is used for looking further in all directions, similar to Hollow Knight. The first new addition will be mapped to the X button, which is a default melee attack for Mario. Upon starting the game, this will be a simple punch-punch-kick motion, exactly like Super Mario 64. However, this can be upgraded into Mario's classic hammer later in the game. Some enemies, like Buzzy Beetles and Spinies, will be too defended to be affected by a punch, so that's where the hammer comes in later. Since this is a Metroidvania, you'll be adding several abilities throughout the game. In fact, the wall jump can be upgraded into a permanent double wall jump by finding new gloves, and a mid-air jump can be achieved by upgrading your cap into a wing cap. ZL is crouching and ground pounding, and ZR is for the roll from Mario Odyssey. You cannot crouch walk in this game, and you still cannot roll through enemies to defeat them. Too Sonic-y, you know? But don't worry, there's a power-up for that. Speaking of which, The biggest changed mechanic is the power-ups. In this game, they're most comparable to badges in the Paper Mario series. Does this mean that there will only be one kind of each power-up in the game? Yeah, and we'll get into why in the story segment. Unlike Paper Mario, where you can continuously upgrade badge slots to wear more of them, this game will only allow 3 different kinds of power-ups to be equipped at a time. The 3 types are attack power-ups, defense power-ups, and movement power-ups. This means that as the game progresses and you unlock more power-ups, you will be able to combine abilities. Due to this, some power-ups will be slightly reworked, and different categories will use different buttons on the controller. The A button is for defense power-ups, Y is for attack power-ups, and R is for movement power-ups. Pressing Y will throw a fireball, pressing R will give you a short burst of speed like Mario Kart, and pressing A will spin your tail, which acts as a sort of parry against projectiles or some strong attacks. Here's a list of all power-ups that can be found in the game, separated by whether they're required for the main story or not. We've already gone over the Super Mushroom, Fire Flower, and Super Leaf, which are all required. Next is the Cape Feather. It is classified as a movement power-up, as its cape spin move no longer kills enemies, but just turns them around like Smash Bros. Although you can still fly with it. Next is the Blue Koopa Shell from New Super Mario Bros. This is now classified as a defense power-up, as it is primarily used to stun strong enemies that attack you, although activating it while running will let you slide forward for a short time, potentially defeating some smaller enemies. The Bubble Flower will be another attack power-up, functioning exactly as it did in Super Mario Bros. Wonder. The final required power-up should be a new one introduced for the game, but I'll let you guys decide what it should be. Be sure to include the category. As for non-required power-ups, those will be things like the Ice Flower, Super Acorn, Rock Mushroom, etc. By the way, the Rock Mushroom, while classified as a movement power-up, is what allows you to defeat enemies during a roll move. That's just about all the ideas I have on power-ups, so let's fill out the rest of the buttons on the controller. Firstly, Mario can check his map by holding down L, which is straight out of Hollow Knight. The map functions practically identically to Hollow Knight, albeit now filling itself out as you explore rather than Mario filling it out while saving. You can pin things or scan the map by holding it while moving the right stick while holding down L. Incidentally, I think a unique feature from Hollow Knight that could be included is losing your sack of coins on death, forcing you to recollect them from the enemy who got you. Another extra feature is that of Yoshis. You can find and collect 10 different Yoshi eggs, each a different color. They all play the same, so you can choose whichever one you prefer. They're accessed by pressing down on the D-pad. Pressing left on the D-pad opens your material menu, and pressing right opens your food menu. Yes, you can cook food in this game. In fact, it's the only way to heal. Mario has 10 HP for a reason. Mario can cook food at free cooking pots throughout the world, but if he wants to use 2 ingredients, he has to find a chef in town, like Paper Mario. Pressing up on the D-pad just toggles your HUD on the screen, like coin count, health, and currently equipped power-ups. With that, we are finally done with the gameplay section, and we'll be moving on to the story. One peaceful day in the Mushroom Kingdom, it suddenly became not peaceful. A new villain in the Mario world arrives, who just so happens to be an older Toad, aptly named Nasty. He enters Peach's castle under the guise of finally meeting the princess, only to suddenly use some sort of staff to erase nearly all of the power-ups from the kingdom, leaving only one of each. He sends the 4 playable characters into a painting, distributes the remaining power-ups to his subordinates, and makes an escape back up to his massive airship high in the sky. His minions, all being older, unique versions of enemies from throughout the Mario franchise, go to different parts of the world to try to block all potential paths to Nasty's airship. We then cut to Mario and gang, waking up in a 2D version of Bob-omb Battlefield, where a Bob-omb buddy informs them that King Bob-omb has taken over the mountain peak once again. Mario traverses the newer version of the area and reaches the peak, only for King Bob-omb to reveal that he is working with Nasty. He stomps his foot, they fall down into the mountain, and a fight with the king using the Super Mushroom ensues. Upon beating him, Mario gains the Super Mushroom and is able to get back to Toad Town, where the true adventure begins. That's a rough version of the story. I like the idea of species seen in series like Paper Mario or Mario and Luigi coming together with main series species to form a gang of enemies, all led by a Toad. Is it way too interconnected for Nintendo to feasibly do? Yeah, probably. Is the idea of each boss using a power-up inspired entirely by the final episode of The Adventures of Super Mario Bros. 3? Yeah, definitely. And please, put any ideas you have for Nasty's gang in the comments. I only have one idea besides King Babam. Now we're gonna move on to the final section of today's video. The world. Unlike Hollow Knight, whose world mainly becomes deeper and darker as the game progresses, I want the player to start at the bottom in this game. You'll go higher and higher until you reach the final area, Nasty's massive airship. So, here's a rough concept for the world of the Mario Metroidvania. Starting in the center is Peach's Castle and Toad Town. The interior of the castle is explorable and acts as a hub for fast travel to certain locations later in the game. Toad Town also features an inn, a restaurant, and shops. These things can be found in all future towns as well. Underneath the surface locations is a connected underground section, parts of which are designed after undergrounds from games like New Super Mario Bros. U and Partners in Time. To the east of Toad Town is Forever Forest from Paper Mario, which now contains 2 haunted mansions that are connected to each other. Rooms and puzzles that are solved or changed in one mansion affect the other. Here, Mario fights the first boss and recovers the Fire Flower. With it, he is now able to open a cave entrance to Tall Tall Mountain to Toad Town's west. In this area, Mario finds better gloves so that he can wall climb jump, the Super Leaf, and even a village of friendly Monty Moles. He reaches a fortress on the peak where he defeats the next boss and gains the Cape Feather. With it, he traverses incredibly tall mushrooms while making his way to the peak of a snowy mountain, where Holly Jolly Village from Partners in Time still sits. He unravels a mystery in the town and beats the boss there, from whom he gets the blue shell. With it, he makes his way over to a second peak of the mountain that is volcanic, using the shell to block magma along the way. After the boss within the volcano is defeated, Mario gains the Bubble Flower and the Wing Cap, and he enters the Meringue Clouds, ascending up through them and eventually defeating the next boss within a thunderstorm. This boss happens to be Kammy Koopa from the first 2 Paper Mario games, and she releases the final power-up upon her defeat. With this, Mario finally ascends into the near atmosphere, reaching Nasty's enormous airship. That is how I think a Mario Metroidvania could work. Thank you all so much for watching this video. Again, let me know of anything you would add to this in the comments. I had so many ideas while writing this, but the script is on its 6th page, and I don't know how long this is going to be, so I'm sure there's still some stuff that can be added to this. But otherwise, have a wonderful day, and I hope you stick around for the next video.